The countdown timer in Elementor Pro is an effective tool for building excitement before something important is about to happen. Perhaps your products have a special price that is valid for a short time. Or maybe you offer something for a limited period and people have to take action fast to benefit from it. Whatever the case is, the countdown timer is an excellent tool for building enthusiasm and urgency in your audience so that they take action now rather than later. This video looks at how to configure the countdown timer in Elementor Pro. I'll go through all the important settings so that you have a good understanding what the widget is all about. But enough talk already, let's meet the countdown timer. Okay, so let's get started with the countdown widget demonstration. So first we are going to create a template and we are going to drag the countdown widget into that template or into that design area, and then I'm going to show you how you can configure the widget for your needs. So here on the left you have the templates menu item, so choose that one and then click on the add new, and here we will choose the template type. So in our case we are going to choose page, and then we are going to name the template. So let me just name it like this. It's going to be called timer, and you can obviously choose whatever name you wish, and then we click the create template button. And Elementor is now working on the background, and we now have the basic template that we can work with. But let's not settle with this view. Typically when you are working with a countdown timer, you are most likely going to be working with a landing page, meaning that you want to have as few distractions as possible. You do not want the visitor to click on any of these links or leave your landing page if that's where you are going to be using your timer. So we will make a quick tweak into this view, and we do that by clicking on this gear icon or settings icon at the bottom left, and then in page layout menu, instead of using the defaults, let's choose Elementor Canvas, and you will then notice that all the distractions are gone and you can only focus on the timer, and naturally this is what the visitor is also going to see. They are not going to see any headers or sidebars, just the plain landing page that you are now about to build with this timer. So how do we move forward from here? So the countdown timer widget is one of the pro elements in Elementor. And let me just close this basic section, and here under the pro section, when I scroll down a little bit, you will then notice that you have the countdown widget. So let me just drag this into the design area like this, and you now have the countdown timer in effect. And next we are going to configure this so that you will then understand what all these different options mean. So let me start this by saying that most of the time you will focus on the content and the style tabs. You also have the advanced tab where you can find more advanced layout options, but in this tutorial I'm only going to be focusing on the content and style tabs. So first, under the content tab, you have the type of the timer. By default, we are using due date, and this is what this tutorial is all about. But you can also choose the evergreen timer, and I have already recorded a video related to this type of a timer, so I will add a link in the description area under this video, so you will have a chance to take a look at this other video. But in this tutorial we are going to be focusing on the due date timer. So this is going to be the type. The due date means basically that this is your destination time. So at this very date your timer is about to expire. So on 20th of June and at 7 p.m. and that's when the days, hours, minutes and seconds are going to be 0 and this timer expires. So this is the place where you define the destination date. You can also decide on the view of your countdown timer. So currently the block is selected by default, but you also have the inline option. So when you choose that one, the appearance of your timer changes. But I have used block in my own experiments, so we are also going to be using that in this demonstration. You can also toggle on and off these digits. So when I click any of these values next to days, hours, minutes or seconds, so you will then notice how this timer is going to be looking like. But naturally only you know which parts of the timer you want to show or hide, so it's really based on your specifications. You can also decide on the label whether you want to show it or not, so it's basically this text that you see here under the digits, and you can hide them or show them, but they are shown by default. You can also create a custom label, so for days, hours, minutes and seconds you can create your own labels if you want to, but in this demonstration we are keeping the default labels like what they are here. You can also decide on the actions, what is going to happen once this timer expires. So when you click on the plus icon you have 3 options and you can actually have multiple actions triggering at once. So the redirect option means that the visitor is redirected into a different URL. The hide action means that this timer disappears once the time expires. And finally you have the show message, which means that the visitor sees a message once the timer expires, and this is the place where you define what message your visitor will see. Next we will talk about the style tab and what you will find there. So first of all you have the boxes section. Here you can define the width of your timer, so when I drag this slider from left to right you will then notice how this timer will look like. You can change between the units, so you have the percentages by default and you can switch these units into pixels if you want to. One very handy feature in Elementor is to see how your design looks in different devices. So if you hover a mouse over this icon it says desktop, but when you click this icon you will have a list of devices. So not only desktop but also tablet and mobile. So when I click on the tablet, this is how your design or your countdown timer is going to be looking in tablet view. And when I choose the mobile, it looks like this. But this very same menu is available elsewhere, for instance next to space between, but there are also some other places where you can switch between devices. You can define the background color. First of all you have the global colors, so these values, these colors you can use throughout your designs. And if you want to add more global colors to the mix, so click on the gear icon and then you can define more colors. So these are currently the colors in our global colors list, but you can click on this add color button to add more colors, and this is basically how this works. You can also choose the background color by clicking on this color picker. So when I click on this and then I can freely drag this balloon or circle like this, and you will then notice how the background color changes. And naturally, if you have a hexadecimal code, you can also enter it here. Next, what we have is the border type. The value none is selected by default, so this element doesn't have any borders. But if I click on the drop down, and when I choose any of these values, let's say the dotted is the one that I want to use, so when I choose that one, nothing happens yet. So you will have to do some additional changes into your design, and in this particular case you have to choose the width of your border. So you have two ways of changing these values. So for starters, you can click these arrows upwards or downwards, so they change the value, and you will then notice how your design looks. But as you can see that all these values are linked together. So it means that when you have this link icon on a gray background, and when you change any of these values, they all change at once. But if you click on the gray background, so now these values are unlinked, and you can change these values individually. So you will then see the changes in our design. So it looks like this. You can also change the background color of your border. You have the global color options, and then you can also choose the color by using the color picker like this. And you can also change the border radius, and it behaves the same way as the width. And by the way, the padding also works the same way. So these values are linked together by default, and you can either change all these values at once, or if you unlink this setting, so you can change these values individually. You can also change the space between the elements here. So when I drag this slider, you will notice that I now have more space between the elements or items. And you also have this device list here where you can switch between devices. And the padding works the same way as the border radius or the width. So it means that you can change how much space you have between the content and the border. So that's basically the boxes section and how it works. Right, so let me close this one and let me open the content section next. So then we will go through these settings. First, you have the digits. So you can change the color of your digits. Once again, you have the global options here, or you can pick individual color by using the color picker, and it works the same way as what you have seen already. And you have the typography. You can define the global fonts if you want to by clicking on this gear icon, and you have more options to choose from. Or you can also use individual settings here by, let me just close the boxes and go back to the content typography and click on the pen icon, so you will have access to the font settings, and you can change these values the way you want. So they then look different or show different layouts in your timer. And naturally you have weight and transform and style. You have lots of different options that you can then play with in your timer. Right. You can also change the color of your labels by defining or using global colors and picking the value from the color picker. And the typography works the same way as under the digits section here. And you can also change the text stroke if you want to. Now, naturally, you want to use these design options the best way you see them fit, and pay close attention to how your design looks, and so that it becomes usable. So it's very easy to get too creative with your designs only to realize that it's very difficult for the visitors to realize what you are trying to do on the page. So make sure to be very specific and really know what you are about to do. Finally, you have the message. Now this is very important to understand. Let me go back to the content tab. So here under actions after expire, if you have chosen the show message action and you have defined the message, only then the message, and let me just close the boxes section here, only then the message section is available. So here you can define, you have different formatting options related to your message that you will show once the timer expires. So you can change the alignment, the text color, the typography, and the padding. So just remember that this message section is not here by default, only when in the content tab and under the actions after expire, the show message option is selected. Anyways, I really hope that you like this video, and make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you will then have a chance to see more exciting WordPress videos, and I will get back to you soon. Bye bye.